Hello, my friends. Jeffrey Shaw here from Grow to Your Potential. As we continue our journey towards better communication, today I want to explore the false belief they know what I know. When we communicate, we make all kinds of assumptions, some of which are helpful, others only get in our way, especially if we don't test them or don't even know they exist. These unexposed and untested assumptions can cause major disruptions and significantly impact how we view another person. Allow me to share a story with you to demonstrate. Dentists, like other businesses that require people to make appointments, often run into issues where people don't show up for their appointments or show up rather late. This can be pretty frustrating as the impact can be quite significant on the employees, the business, and other patients or customers. Now, back when I was a dentist, I have to admit this was a pet peeve of mine. I like to be patient and understanding with people. At the same time, I had a business to run and other patients to consider. My team, they generally knew how to handle those patients who didn't show up. But determining the best response to a patient who was late was more complex. So my team often came to me to decide, what do we do in these situations? In hindsight, this was not the best practice, as trying to make good decisions on the fly when one is already mentally occupied with other matters. Surefire way to get yourself into trouble. And that is exactly what happened one day when my assistant came to ask me if we could see a patient who showed up quite late for his appointment. I was busy with another patient, and when stressed, I default into a rule-following mode. Thus, I said we couldn't see the patient. My assistant questioned my decision with a remark about how she thought we might have time, which in fact we did. We had plenty of time to see the patient. However, I stuck to my guns and the patient was sent their way, rescheduled for another day. Later that day, we had a training session with our consultant. She happened to be there through that morning and observed the incident. And being on the outside of it, happened to notice some false beliefs or assumptions at work. As such, she had us revisit the incident and explore this further. As we did so, a few assumptions came to light that would have completely changed how we handled the situation and would have ultimately changed our practices for the future. The first assumption was that the team and I knew the same things about this patient. In reality, I was the only one unaware of how far the patient had traveled to see us that day. The team knew he was from out of town, but in the heat of the moment, that thought never even crossed my mind. As my team thought for sure I knew this, they never mentioned it. Further, after I stuck to my guns, they were thinking I was a bit of a jerk to enforce a policy on this gentleman, when it hadn't always been enforced on others who may have been a bit more deserving. Once my consultant teased this assumption to the surface, I could fully understand my team's reaction and initial resistance to how I chose to handle this situation, because they were in the right and I made a bad decision. This is when the false belief, they know what I know, really came to life for my team and helped guide future conversations. As we worked through this, we realized that each of us could have done something differently. My team could have started off by providing more information. However, we both realized that we could have asked more questions when expected responses weren't there. Working through this also helped bring to light that even though there are times when I could make the best decisions, there are times when I am the last person who should be making the decision. Through exposing the false belief and improving our awareness of our struggles to communicate effectively, we were now better equipped to be more understanding, ask better questions, and set more realistic policies. Thankfully, my consultant was there to provide the outside perspective. Otherwise, we may have very well missed a great learning opportunity and continued on with some underlying frustrations with one another. The experience I described is a common one team's experience. When these incidences happen and are not exposed, they tend to increase in frequency and the impact grows. It can be harder to spot the underlying causes and more assumptions are created. But this doesn't have to be the way. We are not like the old dog that can't learn new tricks. We have a capacity to continue to grow and learn. We can improve our ability to communicate, to understand, and be understood. To do that, we need to expose and challenge our false beliefs. We need to get curious, ask questions, open our minds to alternate possibilities. There are many ways of doing this, but one of the most effective is often through bringing in someone like me, whether it be through one-on-one coaching or consulting and team training. There are multiple ways I can serve you and your team to help you grow to your potential. Thank you for joining me this week, and I'll see you again next week as we expose another false belief on our journey to better communication.